Hi, this is Stephen Rothberg. I'm the founder of College Recruiter Job Search Site, where we believe that every student and recent grad deserves a great career and that it should be easy and inexpensive for employers to hire them. Our company president and chief operating officer, Brad Boggs, and I get together about once a month to kind of touch on a subject that we think might be of interest to employers, advertising agencies, others in the TA tech space. And Brad, why don't I hand it over to you to say hello, introduce yourself, and bring in our guest for the episode.
Thanks, Stephen. Brad Boggs, President and Chief Operating Officer at College Recruiter. Really excited to be joined today by Alistair Neal of RedDot Media. Welcome, Alistair.
Thanks, Brad. Thanks, Stephen. Great to be here. Appreciate you both.
Yeah, thanks for joining. Why don't you start us off just telling us a little about RedDot Media and the Job Splice platform, I understand?
Yeah, absolutely. So RedDot Media was born out of Broadbean. The two founding partners here at RedDot, Kelly Robinson and Dominic Barton. Kelly founded Broadbean, sold to Cribletter, I want to say in 2014. Dominic was the CEO of Broadbean after that, and then joined RedDot. And what brought us about into the advertising space is the advertising world has changed dramatically from, back in the Broadbean early days when you put a job on Monster for 30 days and you got what you got. And so we launched RedDot to adapt to the changing world around job advertising.
Very cool. So today we'll talk a little about cost per click, CPC advertising, possibly CPA. Before we get into that, from your perspective, how much education is needed with your customers before you go into a conversation about what sort of cost per clicks they should be spending, what's considered good? All that. How much is education important?
I mean, it really depends on the client. In some cases, you're starting from scratch and explaining what programmatic advertising is as it relates to job advertising. And in some cases, they're down to the nitty gritty of how many pennies are they bidding on a particular job type. So it really is client dependent on what amount of knowledge you need to provide them with for them to be successful.
And does RedDot manage, like for a typical employer client, I'm envisioning hundreds, maybe thousands of requisitions, right? Not just like we're looking to hire one person here or there. I'm guessing it's primarily high volume, not necessarily per position, but we're hiring dozens, hundreds, thousands of people a month. And are you managing the campaigns where they kind of say, hey, here are the jobs we're having trouble with, here's a budget, go? Or how does that work?
It really goes back to what I was just saying about the level of education required. Some of our clients, the platform, they're in there, they use it themselves. They just want software to easily do what they need to do in terms of talent attraction. And in some cases, to your point, they just say, here's money, please deliver candidates. They just say hands off and have at it. So it really is, again, client dependent on our level of involvement in their advertising.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. I saw on your website, you specialize in, I believe, harder to fill roles. And then, okay, why don't you go ahead?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Is that the case?
That was a strong inhale there. Yeah, we do specialize in hard to fill roles. Typically, when people bring in experts, it is to solve bigger challenges. But that doesn't mean that, we do a large volume of cooks, right, which are necessarily less hard to fill. Sure. We guess, I don't want to sound like an idiot, but we do it all. It really just depends what the client is trying to achieve.
Sure. Okay. I was going to say, and then I also saw on your website talking about reducing hiring costs, right, through your programmatic platform. So I'm curious, is that at odds at all sometimes with trying to fill harder to fill roles, or how much of reducing costs is lower CPCs and CPAs? How much is increasing conversion rates or marketing, brand awareness?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So a lot of people always it's classic. You want to save money, and there's a couple of different ways you can do that through advertising. One thing that comes to mind off the top of my head is using hosted apply or quick applies, right? It's just the easiest, fastest way to increase conversions. Generally, if you increase your conversions, you're going to be spending less money on the advertising itself.
Right. Okay.
So when you're having conversations with, and again, it's this broad spectrum of clients, right? Some are going to be newbies that maybe 6 months from now are going to be experts. Some come to you and they're already experts. For that typical employer who maybe doesn't have a lot of expertise. They kind of a basic understanding of programmatic, basic understanding of cost per click, cost per acquisition or application. When you're talking with them about what they should be paying for that click to the ATS or that completed application, it was a lot easier in the old days where you'd say it's $400. Here's your monster career builder ad for a month. Maybe you're going to be super thrilled. Maybe you're going to be super disappointed, but it is what it is. Now, though, with change in pricing, you can get a whole different level of candidate quantity and quality if you pay 75 cents a click versus $1 or $1.25. How do you guys have those conversations?
Yeah, so it really is going to be position, job title and location specific, right? And generally where we would start is, okay, what has happened historically? Like what have you achieved at 50 cents a click, or what have you achieved at 75 cents a click? So we're gonna look at the historical data as a starting point, because today's market is not going to be the market it was 2 or 3 months ago, right? It is rapidly changing on basically a daily basis. So you start with some historical data as a starting point, and you want to talk about the client goals. In some cases, they're going to be, hey, we have $10 an application. That's what we're willing to pay. What can you do with that? So you're going to try and meet those $10 application type goals. And sometimes that's as simple as letting the programmatic vendor know, hey, this is our CPA goal. Here's the pixel. Let your AI work its magic and see what we can accomplish. In some cases, it may be the recruiter saying, listen, my hiring manager is breathing down my neck. I am willing to set a premium bid for this role because they're less concerned about optimizing ROI and achieving the best media spend. They're more concerned with having somebody's butt in that seat yesterday. Right. So you're going to figure out the client goals, look at the historical data as a starting point, and then either let the vendor's AI do their magic with a CPA goal in mind, or you're going to have a human in there that's going to set the bids, see what that traffic and conversion looks like, and then manually adjust them up or down. So it's kind of an answer that encompasses a lot of different scenarios, but it really is, what is the client trying to achieve? Do they have budget restraints? Do they have historical data to work with? Take a look at the major vendors, CPCs, what are those going for as a guiding point as well, and using all those different elements to kind of put it together a plan. And then once you have that plan, look at it 3 days and adjust accordingly.
Okay. So you really are comparing with some industry benchmark data. After you get the customer goals, you're sort of comparing CPCs, CPAs conversion rates with the market.
Yeah, and it's very important. Like your CPC for an RN in hard to fill location is going to be very different than your CPC for a cook in Houston.
Right. Yeah.
And Brad, it's the process that RedDot's following sounds actually pretty similar to what we do.
Yeah.
With a lot of our campaigns, there are definitely going to be clients that come to us and they have everything figured out. Here's a feed of jobs. We've got all our CPCs in there, or CPAs, the bid prices. Here's a budget, just optimize. And others are like, we have no idea what to pay. And so going to historical data, going to the market prices,
right.
That's really helpful.
Yeah, it has been helpful for us to sort of show benchmark data according to a band. So what's sort of the lower 25% quartile, and what are the most expensive CPAs or CPAs that customers are typically spending in different markets, maybe for harder to fill roles. So education top to bottom, what they should probably be spending to attract both the quality and volume of candidates that they would need.
And the other factor with that is, like, what is the brand value, right? Like, that's going to affect your CPC as well. Because if you're just making a super popular brand that everybody knows about, they're far more likely to click on your job than if you are, Joe's unknown brand that really has to make sure that they're on the top of the page and do other marketing activities along with their job ads to make sure people are clicking through. So there's a whole bunch of variables, which is what I like to learn a little bit more about College Recruiter is, if I were to come to you and say, here are these jobs I need to fill, how do you determine on your side how your AI is going to pick the right bid? And also within your vast network, how do you determine where those jobs are going to be actually present on the web?
Yeah, great question. I'll jump in first, Stephen, and then maybe you can bring it home if I leave something out. So we start, I would say, much the same way you do. We look at the customer's goals or your goals. If you communicate, here's a customer's CPA goal, and here's the budget. So what we're trying to do is get as many quality applicants as we can for the budget. And our system, our AI, our data maps out based on historical data where we've been most successful based on different job types, different locations. And so that's where we start. And from there, the magic is really having really good data sharing with you in place. So you're sending us a signal when there's a completed application, and we can understand from which of our partner sources that candidate originated, so we can give you more of what's working and less of what's not for the spend.
Mm-hmm. And in that network, I mean, you're actually pulling job ads down from places like, hey, you haven't, we've got 30 clicks and 0 completed applications, down
exactly.
comes the job. Yeah.
Yeah, we're refreshing jobs that we know we have to fill from you or our customers at least hourly. And if the data is not there to show that's a source that's performing well for us or your jobs, they come down the same hour. Absolutely.
Yeah. So we might get jobs in from a particular employer, advertising agency, programmatic vendor, whatever, and we'll kind of slice and dice those. So if there are, let's say it's a feed of 100,000 jobs and 5,000 of them are for one particular employer, we're going to manage that as one campaign as separately. And we might get jobs in from that employer from a variety of sources, because that employer might be using a programmatic agency for high volume roles, and they might be working with more of a traditional employment advertising agency for their lower volume, roles. But we'll kind of combine those. That goes to the power of employer brand. And what we've also found, which has been fascinating to me over the years, is that we can have one source of traffic. It might be like college career service offices, for example, that might perform exceptionally well for one occupational field, engineering, healthcare, but incredibly poorly for another, part-time retail, warehouse. So like the part-time retail, warehouse kinds of roles, we might drive traffic to those in one way, and the engineering, healthcare another way. And our system, our people will be looking for that. So I think, Brad, it's probably fair to say that it's more the occupational field that determines kind of how we run those jobs, like what jobs we're going to get in front of which candidates.
Right. Yeah, I would say so. Typically, sources do better across one type of job, healthcare jobs or engineering or tech, to your point. Yeah. Alistair, maybe one last question. I don't know how much time we have, Stephen, but you mentioned cost per application. Obviously, as the industry moves more towards CPA, you're already there. But are you finding a lot of success with different sources, or is there still a lot of work to do that sources can take those jobs and deliver to you on a CPA basis?
I didn't quite follow. I'm sorry.
So you're not just spending cost per click anymore. Your customers have a CPA goal in mind. Are you buying traffic for them on a CPA basis, or are you bidding on a cost per click basis to arrive at a CPA goal?
Yeah, so it depends on the vendor that they're using in our network.
Yeah.
I've never seen it more than, and this is just my experience, more than a CPA goal, right? Because in most cases, you're still going to be buying the end traffic on a CPC basis, and you're just saying, we know it generally takes X number of clicks to get an application, so we're going to target that at that bid rate to deliver the application. But it's the actual traffic is all coming from CPC spots at this point in time, as far as I know.
I see.
If you know different, I'd love to learn more.
Well, you answered my question. That's really kind of where I started. Are you finding sources that you can say, I want to bid a $12 CPA, and they take the job from you and deliver traffic to you for a completed application of $12, as opposed to the CPC? But maybe we're moving that direction, but not quite there yet. Is that what I hear?
That's what I feel. I mean, because people are still buying the actual traffic from the network job boards at a certain CPC basis. The network job boards aren't providing an individual candidate at a CPA goal. So in my experience, everything has still been CPA goal, not CPA guarantee.
Sure. Okay. Perfect.
Yeah, and we're doing both. I think we're a little bit ahead of the curve.
Oh, tell me more.
We have I think it's fair to say, Brad, that with most of our customers, they have a goal in mind. We want to get 500 applications, 5,000 applications, whatever it is, and we have a certain budget. And so just when you do the math, it works out to be an effective cost per application. They're not paying per application, but when you do the math, it's like, if we can get applications in that cost us an average of $25, you know, we spend $100, we get 4 applications in. Then we're good with that. If you're somewhere in the $15 range, you're inexpensive. That's great. If you're $35, but your candidate quality is really good, like a lot of them convert into interviews, that's okay too. But if you're $200, forget it. You're just way too expensive. We also have a small number, but really rapidly growing, of customers who are like, let's skip this whole CPC thing. Let's not pay you per click. We want to pay $25 per application. And so if you can deliver applications to us at $25 per application and your quality is decent, we'll just buy those. And it kind of, in my mind, it better aligns the media with the goal of the employer. Because the employer, at the end of the day, they want to get the media as close as possible to that cost per hire. And so paying per application is closer than just paying per click. It should theoretically all work out the same way. But there's one client that can't really name them in fairness to them, but they're like, we will buy from College Recruiter if we can pay per application. We will not buy if we have to buy per click. And I think it's to reduce their risk.
Which is interesting because if you're still buying, not like the networks, you're still buying traffic at a CPC, and you know what it's going to take to deliver an application. You still have to pad it a little bit, so they're actually, in theory, spending more if they're buying on a CPA basis on a CPC basis, because you have to put in that buffer to cover yourself.
You call it arbitrage. If you will, because some of the risk of the ad not working falls on us. And so, we're gonna want to build some in. But the way I look at it, Brad, I wonder if you look at it the same way. I think we're in a better position to know how many clicks that employer is going to need in order to convert into an application. You know, if they're sharing that conversion data with us, when we send them a click that converts into an application, we get a signal back in some way, because we see millions of jobs a day. And that employer might only see 1,000. So we have a better handle on, if we pay one of our partners 40 cents a click, about how many of those clicks do we need to buy in order for that to convert into an application? How many candidates are we going to deliver organically who are on College Recruiter, who search for a job on College Recruiter, who click and apply? And so we can kind of build all that. Employers just not in as good a position to know that. So, you know, Indeed a year ago tried to shift everybody away from cost per click.
How'd that go?
Cost per application. And it didn't go well, that's for sure. But do you have any doubt that they'll be back again?
I mean, if I'm going to get in trouble, if they can figure out a way to make money on it, they will bring it back.
So maybe it's all about the rollout. Better customer data and the rollout. So
Well, cool. Alistair, thank you so much. I'm going to throw your LinkedIn URL up again. So if anybody who wants to reach out to learn more about RedDot Media, your programmatic solutions and other employment advertising, branding, etc., that's a good place for them to reach you.
Yep, absolutely. Yep. And even if it's just as simple as XML feed management, that's funny enough. That's how the Job Splice platform got built, was just people needing to easily determine where jobs go. So it could be just that simple of scraping any site or getting a feed from ATS and getting the right jobs to the right vendors is one of the things we help out with. So sorry for the last minute pitch there.
That's awesome. I love to say, like, getting the right job in front of the right candidate at the right time.
Yep.
And that's what you guys do.
Yep. Cool. Will either of you be at RecFest?
Nope. Not this fall. Are you there?
I will be there at RecFest if anyone wants to stop by and say hi. I'm the tall, just remarkably handsome gentleman. That's what my wife says. So, anyways,
you got another pitch in there at the end. Nice.
I think your wife should jump on and comment here about whether she actually said it that way and whether there's any hint of sarcasm or not. Because if that was coming from my wife, at best it would be very sarcastic.
Yeah, but now you got me questioning her sincerity. But my mom would say that. So.
Oh well, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, Brad, Stephen, appreciate you both. Good seeing you.
Been a pleasure.
Cheers, guys.
Bye-bye.